Thank you, Concorda. Taoiseach, I'm going to raise an issue with you which I would appreciate your direct intervention on, and it relates to people with intellectual disabilities. We're dealing with more than a few hundred people here. I appreciate that Minister Rabbitte is here to hear this as well. So I'm asking you directly, Minister Rabbitte, to go out and meet the people. Can you imagine in the middle of a pandemic, we have families and individuals with intellectual disabilities outside protesting? Can you imagine that they are the first group in this country during COVID crisis that have actually come to protest outside our national parliament? What is that saying? I've raised this now for 3 weeks in a row. Granted, it was with the Taoiseach on both occasions, second time he delegated to Junior Minister Rabbitte. We are not going to leave these people behind. We are currently leaving them behind, Taoiseach. It is completely and utterly unacceptable. We live in a republic. We must treat everybody equally. But most of all, us as legislators in our national parliament and you as government, we need to ensure that our most vulnerable during this crisis are protected at all costs. And by God, these are our most vulnerable. Now, I've spoken with the families. Enough is the format under which they are protesting outside. I'm asking you to go out and meet them, and Minister Rabbitte to go out and meet them. Please surprise me and go and do it. Please do it, because I think you need to hear their stories. You see, the issue here, Taoiseach, is the fact that they have been forgotten about. They have had no day services. They are losing the will to live. They have no stimulation. Routine is everything in their lives. My friend, Philip, and he is my friend, Philip Kelly, he's no relation, here in Dublin, who I've went and met. He asked me to ask you now today to allow him to go back to work. He calls it work. It's his day service. He makes his contribution. And I can talk about Leah, who is basically feels like it's Groundhog Day every day, or Dara, who basically cannot understand, cannot even remember necessarily where how the services were being provided and now the differential. Stephen, whose parents believe he's developing habits that they're very worried about. Padraig, whose life, he says, has been turned upside down. Alan, who feels very much that he's been discriminated against and treated very badly. Taoiseach, these people and their families are being discriminated against and being left behind. We've had a reopening roadmap set for our schools. The timelines need to be the same for these people. Will you commit to that today? Now, I don't want to hear, and listen, I have raised this, and I'm passionate about this issue. I don't want to go out to the people who are outside, which I will do, and say that the Minister has issued a statement last night all of a sudden, and that now from August the 4th we'll know of dates of when they're reopening. I want to know when they're going to reopen, fully, like the way we are treating everybody else in education. I want to know when their services will reopen, when they will get appropriate accommodation,
Thank you, Deputy.
when they will get appropriate staff, when the staff that have been put into residential care will be brought back out and put into day services. These are the most vulnerable, Taoiseach.
Deputy, please.
This is not a political issue for me. These are the most vulnerable in our society, and you have a duty, and I have a duty, to protect them. Please give us dates and a proper plan to re-establish the services for them,
Kelly.
so that we can tell them outside later on.
Well, first of all, I thank the Deputy for raising the issue. I know he does so in a very genuine way, and I agree with a lot of what the Deputy has said. I'm not happy that there's not a specific timelined roadmap that I have seen yet in terms of the restoration of services, in terms of the disability day services reopening. You may say to Philip and to Leah, Dara, to Stephen and to Alan that the government is working, and I'm working with the Minister for Health and the Minister for State and the Department of Health to get this moving, because I don't think it's acceptable that at this stage the services aren't reopened. Now, initially in March, as you will appreciate, with the pandemic and the shutdown, all services were shut down. Now, I'm told by the department that the service providers are actively working to get day services ready to reopen safely and in line with public health guidance. I'm told that adult day services will gradually resume during the month of August, but I want more specifics than that. And we've also made it clear that the earlier HSE efficiency savings that's all being put to one side. And whatever the HSE apparently are engaged with the service providers with a view to identifying and validating business cases from those providers for additional funding to support the reopening of services. I want that accelerated very, very quickly. The government did provide over another $2 billion to the Department of Health in terms of service funding to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic health service funding issues. And in my view, the wherewithal is there to try to facilitate the return and the resumption of these services. The HSE have confirmed that no provider has informed them that services will not resume in August. Now, that's, again, I would say to you, what I want is a timelined, specific response as to when all of the services plan to reopen and commencement dates in relation to same. An information portal that will contain the dates on which the 966 disability day service locations will reopen around the country has been developed. And I understand that after August the 4th, service users and families will be able to access this information on www.hac.ie/new directions. We'll send that out. But I think your point is well made. I'm not arguing with you in any shape or form, and I do get the necessity to get these services restored in a meaningful way for those who use them and avail of them.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Taoiseach, I don't doubt your sincerity on this issue. But let me just say a few things for you you might take back. So, I've read the letters from the service providers. They're not going to be opening in August. Many of them are going to open in August, but not to the scale required. So I'm asking you, with your colleague and Minister Donnelly, and I'm glad that you have now verified that the 20 million is not going to be cut, that sneaky cut that's gone. But I'm asking you to specifically look into this and specifically ensure that service provision that is so desperately needed is rolled out in August fully. There are transport issues here. There are accommodation issues here. There are staffing issues here. There basically are all the same issues as there was with opening schools. But there is no effort. There is no plan. Now, I would have known if there was a plan, because I've spoken at length across the whole country, including the people in your own county, about this. Right? They are not receiving any form of validation from their service providers that they will be up and running.
Thank you, Deputy.
So, seriously, Taoiseach, we need a plan in place to be published on August the 4th, not just saying service provision will come back at some date and at what percentage, but that it will come back fully. They need it. They deserve it. The very same way the school kids need it and deserve it. These are our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, just to say I agree, and I met with the Minister for Health last evening and the Secretary General of the Department of Health in the aftermath of a Cabinet subcommittee in respect of health generally. Did you discuss this? Yes, that's the point. I did. And I asked for a proper timelined response in terms of when services are being restored. There are about 19,000 people involved. They deserve this, just like, as you mentioned, children going to school and so on to do. And, I will keep on top of this until I get satisfactory responses. and I don't think the necessary clarity is there right now. But that engagement is underway, and I think the HSE are working with the service providers, to be fair. But I will keep in touch with you and other deputies in relation to this issue. I take the points that you have made in terms of your understanding of what's going on the ground in respect of certain services. But I am told after August the 4th there will be information available to all involved. But what I really want to see is a match between statements and reality on the ground.